Woohoo! We are live.
Hello there.
Hello. Nathan, it's good to see you, man. It's good to
You
see
too. You too. It's been a while.
you. Yeah.
I.
And so I'm gonna be honest. Yes, you got your hard copy. Me too. Me
Mm-hmm.
too. I'm gonna be honest. I did not get a chance to finish the podcast that you and Clay did.
Okay.
I'm still working on it. But I listened to like the first part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in Kentucky for the ACC tournament, not the horse races.
Oh, well, whatever. Horse racing stuff. Horse stuff. I just knew you were someplace, some about a hospital. There was all kinds of nonsense.
Yeah, so I ended up like breaking my hip, not breaking my hip, but feeling like I broke my hip. Um,
Mm. You're
so
too young for
lots
that.
of, I know, right? Some people
Mm-hmm.
tell me, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Alliance podcast. I'm out of the zone, man. I
Mm-hmm.
recorded like 6 episodes of Slice of Film back to back.
Jeez.
No, like I had all this like stacked up. So I hadn't
Okay.
recorded a Slice of Film new episode in like 4 weeks. Until Army of the Dead last week. And then I've
I
been
listened
gone
to
a
that.
month from Star Wars Alliance. So what'd you think of Army of the Dead? Did you watch it? Of course
I
you
did
watched
watch it. I did watch it. It's from one of my favorite directors, obviously, so I
it.
was going to give it a chance. I need to watch it again, but it didn't like blow my face off with like how great it was, but I did really enjoy it. It definitely had some Snyder tropes and like some cool new like zombie genre trope. Like a zombie king basically and a queen. Like I don't know, it wasn't your typical slow walking like one of my favorite zombie movies I ever saw, was because I knew nothing about it, was World War Z. And that was because those fucking zombies were insane and running, and like that was something I'd never seen before. So doing something, putting a new spin on this genre, like for better or for worse, I still think that's a cool idea. So I definitely enjoyed it, but it's not in my upper echelon of Snyder films. Let's put it that way. But very enjoyable. And
We're actually
I thought Batista did a good. He is blossoming into a more serious and better actor, you know what I mean? Because there were still some parts in there where you were like, I can kind of see the wrestler guy coming out in there, but for the most part, I thought he did pretty good.
Yeah, this was definitely his best film by far.
Absolutely. So, welcome back to Army of the Dead Alliance. No, I'm just kidding.
I know we're here to talk about Star Wars, but we're actually going to talk a little bit about Zack Snyder today.
Oh,
so
really?
I thought it was relevant, and I figured, you know what? What the hell?
Sure.
So, but before we get into it, Nathan, why don't you give us the podcast paperwork spiel?
Well, we are members of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. 9 shows, 7 days a week. Monday, actually, what is it? Starting next week, I do believe, on Monday.
No, so Ranger Alliance premiered today.
Ah, damn it! See, I messed it up. Ranger Alliance premiered. They're alternating with World's Finest True Believers on the Monday slot. So it'll be Chris with his World's Finest, and then Clay and those guys with Ranger Alliance, and then Tuesday is DC Alliance. And they go live Monday nights, and then Wednesday is getting ready to be superhero discussions to take the spot that Marvel normally went in, because with Loki being in the middle of the week, the guys wanted to be able to record. So they're going to be, that show will be coming out on Friday. And then Thursday is going to go back to just Katie's Day with this show here and Slice of Film alternating weeks. And like I said, the superhero discussion and Marvel Alliance have just switched. And then on the weekends, you have Weird Science, Marvel, and DC Roundup, respectively. And we also have a Patreon account where like $1 just kind of helps keep the Kyber crystals, nice and bright and shiny. And then the $5 tier gets you exclusive episodes, ad-free episodes, and sometimes early access to episodes. And we are an ad-supported network, and we'll try to give you some warning whenever we put an ad in there. We don't get to choose the volume of the ad, which ads they are, or how many times they are repeated in a row, or if you get a 30-second ad break, or if you get a 3-minute and 30-second ad break. We don't know. So we just thank you for bearing with us, and I think that's it.
Well, sounds about right to me. So let's go ahead and dive into it.
Mm-hmm.
The So the first thing I wanted to do
Okay.
was I just gotta talk about this.
Okay.
So I know you're not a High Republic person,
Not
but
not as of yet.
this is the artwork for the Rising Storm. Um,
Okay.
that is from out of print. So it will be available June 29th. And oh my gosh, this is gorgeous.
Mhm.
Like, this is so pretty. So you got Stellan Geos. This is the Chancellor, her lion companion things here.
Mhm.
And then I keep wanting to say Nick Ardoon. It's the Nihil right here.
Yes.
So just very impressive. Like Del Rey's been throwing some great art out the window recently. So props to them. The $50 it is $50. It is signed by Kevin Scott. I have heard very good things about this
Cool.
book so far. Everyone's raving about it. Now
Good.
granted with Jedi Dooku Lost, which
Mhm.
was the audio drama from Kevin,
Yes.
I always expected great things. So it doesn't surprise me. But it is signed and then it comes with
Oh,
a
that's
tote
cool.
bag with this artwork on it. So if you want a tote bag, which I'm picking this up, I saw this and it was like, oh. So
Nice.
granted, I got Charles Soule's Light of the Jedi version of this. So it came with like socks and a pin. So but yeah, I just want
uh,
to show that off because I'm just really impressed. Here's
the
what the book
artwork,
actually looks like.
the artwork does look very good. I don't know what it was. What is it? The Jedi? Is it? Are they spinning something? Do they have a device that's a force shield of some sort? Like what is that?
That looks like his lightsaber.
So it's floppy and
Uh
he's just super spinning it and it's going really fast.
yeah.
Is it like the Family Guy version of Star Wars where you had Herbert coming out there and he lights his lightsaber and it all flops to the ground until he sees Chris? Is it before that gets fully? Uh, Either way, you know what I'm saying, guys. You know what I'm going for. I'd like to see how that happens with a lightsaber, or if this their arm just spins around really fast or whatever. It's an interesting look.
So we've seen it happen in the books, and a lot of people were like, "Wow, I was wondering if we were going to get artwork of this scene." So
Mm-hmm.
apparently, it's a really impressive scene in the book. But like in Legends, they would do this all the time, where they would just spin. And I mean, heck, Ahsoka kind of does it with her lightsabers, kind of just
Oh,
spinning,
that's true.
deflecting things.
That's
So
kind
I
of
think
true.
it's
Yeah,
just an exaggeration of the spin
it
in
looks
the
good.
artwork form.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it
art
looks
looks great.
hella good. Um,
I like those like
so
vibro axes or whatever they have there, like with their look, it's a very nice piece of art.
And this was revealed by This Week in Star Wars. The illustrator is, and I'm gonna butcher this. I'm sorry, Jama Durabiv.
Nailed
Uh,
it.
you did a fantastic job. So, props to you. And I don't know if you can tell on your phone, Nathan, but can you
Hmm.
see that I changed the background for us?
Oh yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Yes.
It's the cover. I can
Yep.
see it.
I thought we'd go in a different direction today.
That's nice. That's nice. Still wish the border pages were like a dark red or a black or something with like little red
Yes.
speckles. But whatever's whatever. I can't argue with getting good Thrawn content. I'll take it
Uh,
basically how I can get it.
I did the one, I think it was Barnes and Nobles. So I got like the little like signature page
Oh,
because I'm a nerd.
yeah, mine came from a Books a Million. Or no, actually, wait a minute. Wait, I lied. I just happened to be going by Target and I saw this on the bookshelf and I said, well, I don't have the hard copy for that yet, and I picked it up for bringing home.
Yes. There is a Target exclusive copy of The Rising Storm and Out of the Shadows, which is
Okay.
so it's The Rising Storm's the adult book that's coming out in June. Then Out of the Shadows is the young adult book that is coming out in July.
Nice. Nice.
Um Sarah is on. She says
Hello
she has
there.
started Greater Good, but no way was I going to finish it by now. Sarah, I feel you. I said it before. I read this in 4 hours last night, even though I had the entire weekend of just sitting on my butt doing nothing. So,
Okay, I finished this quite a few weeks ago now. Now that I think about it, like just thinking about the last time we talked, I finished this quite a while ago now. Time
yeah, because
flies.
you had it finished the last time we recorded.
I powered through it in basically 3 days, something like that. I got through it pretty quickly.
We're almost there. We're almost there.
Sure.
So the next thing is another High Republic, but I figured I'd get it out of the way.
Go ahead.
Daniel Jose Older is writing Star Wars: The High Republic Trail of Shadows, which is a comic miniseries, which stars a Jedi and a private investigator. This takes place after the next set of books. So the Rising Storm, Out of Shadows, and then I can't remember the middle grade book, but they all take place around the Republic Fair, kind of like the World's Fair that we used to have when new technologies were being explored. So something happens there, and then this team kind of takes off. So it's a miniseries, and it's a noir type comic book, according to Older. So
we're gonna
very excited about this one.
Some inner monologue, we're doing some detective work then.
Yeah. So it says, following the shocking events of the Republic Fair, the Jedi call upon one of their own, Emmerich Kaftor, to investigate a strange mystery with ties to the Jedi Order. At the same time, Chancellor Lena Stowe calls upon Cyan Holt, a high-end, in-demand private detective, to look into the same mystery, but will either solve this riddle before anyone else dies. So I'm thinking it's very interesting, and I love mysteries.
Yeah.
So
hell, who knows? It could be one of the there's always good opportunity for good storytelling when you do a detective noir story. Like if you really just want to get inside the mind of your main character, like there's definitely opportunity there to write a good story no matter what setting you put it in.
Yes. It has been said that there are, according to Older, they're being compared to the X-Files duo Fox Mulder and Dana Scully. One is more spiritual with the Jedi conduct, has its own personal emotional approach to things, and the other is more into the detective side, sharp, practical, and logical.
Was very much a fan of X-Files as a kid when I was younger. Like I never watched it to get older, but hey, that's definitely sounds like a good archetype to base your characters off of. I could definitely go with that.
Yeah. So that is due out at some point this fall. The exact date has not been revealed, but it's there. Next. So the Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, they're filming right now. But this isn't much, which is why I'm throwing this in now. But the working title of Buccaneer has been revealed for the Boba Fett show. So they're working under the title Buccaneer. And this is like due to the graphics. Oop, no, that's not the button I wanted to hit.
Buccaneer.
So I gotta get my
trying to figure out like what Buccaneer. I wonder how that would relate. Usually they try to do some kind of clever working title that relates, like really slyly to the movie or series.
Yeah. So you've got like this graphic right here. So you've got the title season 1. So that's interesting. It's not just going to be kind of like a one-off, potentially. And then you've got what looks like Boba sitting here, looking like he's shooting up the guard from Jabba's palace in a Wookiee.
Oh,
I don't know. Would you say
perhaps
that's a Wookiee?
It very well could be. I'm not 100% sure, but it could be.
So, and you can see there's like other stickers on here. So, Book of Boba Fett, season 1, AD department, camera department, stickers. So, that's kind of what the Boba Fett fan club is thinking.
Can we just pause for a second and bask in the glory of we're about to have a Boba Fett series? Like the guy that like once he was saw seen in the original trilogy, like he didn't have there was no dialogue. He was just basically a standing there. People with that's the coolest damn outfit I've ever seen. There were many comics, many novels based around this character, exploring the lore of him. And now, like, we're getting to be like, no. Like, let's actually watch some of the cool badass shit that Boba Fett did. I just think that's really cool that we're finally. I mean, it's taken what 40 years to really explore him, but hey, better late than never, I guess.
Hey, you said you wanted to dive into some legends, so
yes, definitely.
there is a ton of good Boba Fett content towards the later end. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but like Boba teaches someone how to kill a Jedi.
Oh,
so
see, I've got to imagine that with Favreau specifically, and well, actually the duo of them, like just in the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, they have pulled so many just little nuggets and random things from Legend. You know what I mean? I've got to think that when they're doing their entire Boba Fett series, that they're gonna cherry pick some of the like for somebody like you who's well versed in Legends, like you're gonna like when that show comes out, you're gonna be like, whoa, shit, they brought that into canon or this or that. You know what I mean? I just think there's because these guys were making the Star Wars holiday special, like taking like Din Djarin's blaster comes straight from the holiday special. You know what I mean? So like I just can't wait to see what little things that somebody with more knowledge like you will be like, oh, that's so cool. That's from this and this and brought in. So I just got a feeling more of that's gonna happen with this series.
yeah, I'm excited.
Me
The
too.
other thing that they posted, I gotta go. So you've got Tamura Morrison wearing a Buccaneer jacket in April 2021. So he's Buccaneer. There's the sticker from the Notebook, and he's signing a poster right there. So rumored creature crew graphic. So
I don't know, like there's gonna be some kind of like that's some kind of huge hint that we just don't we're not putting together right now. I really want to know what that means because they were trying to be clever when they came up with working title Buccaneer, like he to themselves. I just really want to know what they're heeing about.
Well, and working titles, I don't think I've ever seen like crew stuff with working titles on it.
I want to say that there are examples, but none are coming to mind at this moment. But so I have nothing. I have no rebuttal or rebuffs. I can't remember if there have been. I want to say there has been over all the productions ever. There's got to have been stuff that was officially branded merchandise with the working title.
Yeah, and maybe that's the case. I know like most of it's just like the Witcher crew or in-game crew. So I don't know. So the next thing on our list, which will lead into probably one of your favorite things to discuss. Well, one of them, in this news situation. So Rangers of the New Republic appears to have been put on the back burner, at least for now. So, and that appeared in an article that was set up about Dave Filoni's promotion, or it's titled recent promotion, but he got promoted last summer. So it's not really a recent promotion. It was just everyone finally found out about it.
That in itself is interesting. Like, really, you're not gonna give Dave Filoni any kind of fanfare? Not like a memo to any kind of press to do anything? No. The only way it found out is that the IT department finally was like, oh shit, we're like 6 months behind on putting Dave's credits on there, and clicked it. And now then people were like, whoa.
Executive department. So the entire executive page got updated.
But you know what I mean? Like, there's no like I don't want to say everybody's it's all Dave Filoni, but like you would think there would have just been a little more, even a tweet or something, just from Lucasfilm or Star Wars or Disney to be like, hey, you know what, Dave Filoni, congratulations. I don't know. I just think that's kind of weird that it just went under the radar.
I think just everyone missed it because I could not find an article that said it last year, but I am fairly certain that we got hit news about his promotion. Like somewhere it said executive creative director Dave Filoni.
I want to say that you and I, if you go back on some of these episodes, are that shortly after the success of season 1 of Mandalorian, I want to say that we talked about a rumor that Dave was going to be promoted. That like there was rumblings that he was going to get some kind of more of a hold on, not like the buck stops with him, but more of a hold of like his voice is going to hold more weight now if he says, hey, wait, you know, I don't think, you know, such and such would do that. Instead of them just being like, oh, that's the animation guy. Like now they stop a little bit. They go, all right, well, Dave's saying, you know what I mean? I want to say that we talked about him getting more of a voice in the company in between that interim, and it sounds like almost towards the latter half of season 2 or possibly right after season 2 of The Mandalorian, they went ahead and made it official. Or, you know, I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, but that's kind of what it sounded like right in that wheelhouse.
Yeah. So I'm reading this off of Star Wars Newsnet, and they're saying the same thing. They're like, why didn't he receive a press release? Like, he is universally loved by fans.
Yeah.
Tweet. And Lucasfilm's like, this has been his promotion for the past year, so why would we do this now? So, and I don't think Lucasfilm has ever been one to really make a big deal out of these things. So I think it's standard for them.
Well, they roll out the red carpet and do like Twitter fireworks stuff when Kathleen Kennedy signs a new contract, or like a Pablo Hidalgo, or like anybody that's in this brain trust of like Lucasfilm Story Group. You know, like I don't know. Actually, that's a whole nother thing in itself. Like though that's neither. Like sometimes like their sporadity with people that they show appreciation. You know what I mean? Like James Earl Jones' birthday went by and like nothing came out of it, and like George Lucas's and stuff. But you know, somebody in like Broom Boy has a birthday and they're like, "Happy birthday, Broom Boy! May the force be with you." And go, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's something weird and wacky going on with the things they pick and choose to, I guess, put out there, promote, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Neither here nor there. The main point is Filoni's voice has more weight now, and I think that is a good thing. And I know, like you said, you don't want the buck to stop necessarily with Filoni, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I do like that he gets more of a, hey guys, let's maybe think of us over again before we, you know what I mean? Like, I like that he can be heard more at the creative table. Nothing.
I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yes, he's good at his job, but I think he tells a good character-focused story, whereas and this like, I don't know if he universally grasps like a multi-character story. Does that make sense at all?
I understand what you're trying to say. I vehemently disagree. I understand what you're trying to get across. I just don't agree with you.
I just think like that. I don't think he's the next Kevin Feige. That's what I'm saying. Granted, I don't like Feige,
say that. I wouldn't necessarily say that either.
And I don't want Star Wars to be controlled by one person and one person only, because I think that's too big a job for someone, and you're always gonna get things that look the exact same the entire time.
Well, until Lucasfilm implodes the story group, I don't think you ever have to worry about that. Like, there's never, like, Disney and Lucasfilm have never done that. They've had 12 people with 12 different identities and 12 different voices, and all come together to be like, no, this is canon. Like, I'm, for better or for worse, I'm just saying, like, that with their creative, you know, people like that system set up, like the keepers of the canon or whatever they're called. I think that's kind of hard to do. So it's like I'm trying to comfort you. I guess it doesn't sound like that. Like, I just don't think that he's gonna. You know what I mean? Like, I think as long as that's there, I don't think you have to worry about any one voice, whether it be Feige or anyone else in that collective group of people. Like, I just think it's still going to try to be that collaborative effort. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the promotion at all.
Sure.
I'm just saying, like, I know where everyone's like, oh, Dave Filoni should control everything. And I'm like, no, he shouldn't.
Right.
So
I get what you're saying.
That's my feeling. And
what was the second part of that we started talking about? We chipped off the Filoni part. What was the first part of that whole
Rangers of the New Republic is no longer in development.
I think it's more of a like George was like, it's on the shelf. like that
Mm.
1313 or whatever, and all that stuff. It never went away. It always just sat there until they either pulled parts of it apart to put into new things, or like so. I think we got to remember Kathleen Kennedy come out and said that Mando season 3, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic. We're gonna all be under the helm of Favreau and Filoni. You know what I mean? And that all four of these stories, they were going to tell their own stories until they came together for an Avengers like type of event where they came together. With Rangers being, like I said, I don't think right. It's just not being developed any further. So I think that just means they're stopping right now. They put it on the shelf. I think whatever connective tissue or whatever is going to be to put those together, I think that falls on Mandalorian season 3 now to pick up the slack of those other pieces, because Book of Boba Fett's already going. There's not much time, or if anything, you can sneak a few more Easter eggs in or a few more setup pieces. Ahsoka, I don't think they want to necessarily drag it down with trying to wait. You know what I mean? Like with as popular as that character is, and we know they're bringing Thrawn in for her story. Like that is going to be her bad guy or whatever. I think they let that have a little more range. You know what I mean? That I don't think it's going to have to be whatever they're going to do. And I think that puts the rest of it on Mando season 3 to still tell a good story, but to lay the final ground pieces for whatever this big event was to come. And I do believe that eventually we will either Rangers of the New Republic will take it back off the shelf and finish developed, or they will strip it all the way down for say, let's just put for instance, but for instance, like let's say if Patty Jenkins was going to have her Rogue Squadron set in the same time period. Now, there might be some things that she could strip or cherry pick from that to put in there. You know what I mean? So I don't think
she could use Paul or something.
Right. Like those ideas aren't gone, and who knows, in 5 more years we may actually see the exact same series, whether it be Disney makes up with Gina Carano and they bring Cara Dune back, or they switch it to maybe like a Hera or a new character altogether and bring that series back. Somebody else will get introduced to. So I think right now, I would say more right now it's paused, not thrown away. You know what I mean? We just kind of paused it.
And that's, I guess, what a lot of people have said. I think it was a downfall. I think it was a bigger issue when Disney announced 10 shows that were going to be on Disney Plus. I think at some point something had to give. And this just happened to be the one. You're maybe right that this comes back later, but you announce 10 shows at a time and you're like, this is our spec for the next 5 years. Something's gotta go.
I think we'd even made jokes about that when they announced all this, is we'll see how many actually come to fruition. I do believe, like, when we talked about this, we even made jokes like, we'll see how many actually come after all the start and stops and stuff they had. So this just seems like the first casualty on that list. I say first because I don't know if it is the last, honestly, just because, like I said, their track record as of the last handful of years, we don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I would love to see a Lando show. I think Donald Glover did a great job in that character. I just don't know if it's going to come to light.
I don't want to see him doing sex with droids, though. Like, let's leave all that stuff out of there where he's all hot and heavy with a weird droid. Like, let's just do a good Lando series.
In Disney Plus's defense, this is Disney Plus. This isn't Hulu.
Well, yeah, but still, like, they could be like, oh, we're star-crossed lovers and the love that could. I don't know. Let's just leave that stuff behind and, like, show me how he, like, learned the maneuvers that he used at the Battle of Tanab, because when we get into the original trilogy, he's like, I guess they heard about my maneuver at the Battle of Tanab. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Just show me him being like the slimy, like, okay, not slimy. I don't even want to say slimy. Showing me how he's like the hustler, the true hustler. How he could basically, he could talk a Gundark out of a cave or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just show me that side of him, how he got to be as good as he was. Literally, the man, he is like running Vespin. He didn't have that stuff. He swindled that out of somebody, like, to become, you know what I mean, to run that whole planet. So show me more of that stuff. I'm in for that.
Well, and what he did in Legends was he constantly went from business to business. So, like, in the original Thrawn trilogy, he has switched off from Bespin to mining things on a planet that is basically burning up by the sun. So they, like, have special like shielding in place so the building doesn't burn.
Is that the first Heir of the
That's the
Empire?
first book.
I thought so
Yeah.
because I made it. I made it so far into that one. I do remember Lando having yes. This is ringing bells for me now.
So I think it kind of works the same way that he may do some swindling here and there, but mostly he's just a little ADHD.
show me him being like a brilliant businessman too. Like show me that he sells Bespin for so much and he can afford to buy a mining world that's going to burn up by the sun just to flip that and make a profit to buy 3 planets or so. Like I'm in for that too. Show me the business side of him.
Yep. All right, switching gears.
Wait, should we take our first ad break? We're about a half an hour in before we switch gears.
Yeah.
Should we do that, or do you want to get the last news in, or however you want to go? We're working it out on the fly here.
Let's take our ad break because I think these last 3 we'll talk a little bit about. So
okay,
y'all. And 3, 2, 1. And we are back. Thanks for listening, y'all. We appreciate it as always. So Zack Snyder.
Yeah, fill me in on this. I don't even know what you're talking about. Like this is gonna be new. You're gonna find my reaction out live on the cast, guys, because I have no idea what she's talking about with Zack Snyder Star Wars.
Let's go. Something about Zack Snyder. You don't know? What?
Yes, I've been very busy over the week. I was camping. Like I had to work today on this holiday as we're recording. I just now sat down to watch Bad Batch from Friday about 3 hours ago for the first time. So like I'm literally just trying to get caught back up on stuff. But anyway, fill me in.
I gotcha. So apparently, several years ago, Zack Snyder was interested in tackling a Star Wars film for Lucasfilm.
For Lucas, actual George Lucas, or after the purchase?
It does not say. Okay. This is an interview that was done on a Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. And the big details have been transcribed from the playlists by Charles Barfield. So greatly appreciate you guys. Thanks. The film was said to be Kurosawa inspired and would take place in the galaxy far, far away. Mm-hmm. However, as we know now, things changed and that feature was never given the green light. Zack Snyder, in the interview with the podcast, Zack Snyder shed some light on what had happened to that film and why it still could be made without the Star Wars branding. He said, "We've talked about it, but it never happened. I've been working on it away from the Star Wars universe on my own as a sci-fi thing. It's still sci-fi. It's the same story. Now I'm just going to let Star Wars be Star Wars." Discussions about the film happened after the prequels were released and right before Lucasfilm was sold to Disney. Sorry, I hadn't read this yet.
That's right. We're on the fly, what happened. We're on the fly. We'll edit that in post, guys. Just don't worry. We'll edit that in post.
And right before Lucasfilm was sold to Disney, so there weren't any Star Wars features in the works. While he wasn't keen on sharing specifics about how his original idea would have connected to Star Wars, he did say that the film didn't feature any characters that had already appeared and was an entirely separate thing in the universe. It was me saying, "Give me the keys and let me take it for a spin."
Well, you know what this sounds like to me? Kurosawa. Damn it! Now I'm messing myself up. But anyway, Kurosawa. The seventh. God, that was sounding terrible. Anyway, sorry. You know what I'm talking about, guys. It's like Seven Samurais, this thing, and like all those. So I can definitely see if this was during Lucas and it was after the prequels. I imagine this is, for example's sake, this is a Kanan or an Ahsoka, somebody who survives Order 66, and the Jedi is the perfect because Kurosawa did like the wandering samurai. Like he would come to a village and like he would help. And what are Jedi? They were wandering the galaxy, just kind of, they would roll into a planet and, something would happen and they would help the planet and they would move on. So like that aesthetic totally fits with the Jedi and that world. But if I know Zack Snyder, of course he doesn't want to divulge details because he's working on like an Army of the Dead now or DC characters then, who's to say in like 2 years Netflix or a streaming service or somebody else comes and goes, "Hey, we want to have this space opera thing. You have any good ideas?" And he can go, I got this, so we'll just have to switch this to this. So that interests me. I could totally kind of, maybe I'm wrong, but like I know that, you know, Zach's, I like to think I know that his work very well. That fits right in his wheelhouse. Maybe I'm wrong and he was going to go out of the box, but that just seems to be right in his wheelhouse to me.
Yeah, I think it could definitely work. It would be interesting to see like where he would have chosen to put it in the timeline, because obviously
Mm-hmm.
if you're working with IP, you have to kind of know, okay, what are my boundaries still? And while I think he could do well, it probably wasn't the right time for it then, especially because Lucas was like, how many billions can I get for Lucasfilm? So,
Well, you
uh,
got to think if we're working in those parameters when George had it, he was actively doing the Clone Wars, filling that gap in.
mhm.
He had an edict that you could not touch the Clone Wars, but like I said, at the time he was filling that in, and he would let some stuff go on past Return of the Jedi. You know, with the Heir of the Empire, you got into that stuff like I just got my own speculation. Maybe I'm wrong. Is it would be right before the fall of like the events of Phantom Menace or even Order 66, or it's going to be in the, you know what I mean, right after, because it just, to me, it just makes too much sense. Like I can't, unless it was like one of Luke's, trainees, one of his Padawans after his academy, his new academy, and like went out. Like I just, to me, it just makes so much sense of what aesthetic and what style he would be going for.
Actually, I think there's a great book in Legends that you would appreciate that kind of follows what you just said. So,
Okay. What do you got? Tell me the name. I'm gonna write it. I'll scribble it down.
it is the Jedi Academy trilogy
All right.
by
I'm literally gonna scribble it down.
Kevin J. Anderson.
Jedi Academy. Gotcha. Oh, I got
It's a
something
full
on my finger.
trilogy, but it tells, oh God, I love these. And
Oh,
so
like really personal favorite to yours? Like honestly, you like really? All
I
right.
just
Well,
love anything in the New Republic era of Legends. Like
Academy.
any of that is really good, especially kind of the stuff that delves into Luke building a Jedi Academy is just
Yes.
really great stuff. And I saw something on Twitter that I think you would appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
It was the um God, I can't remember her name, but she used to run the Jade Club, which was a Star Wars forum slash news site. She's still really involved, but doesn't. She kind of shut it down. And was like, Star Wars is going in a different direction for me, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the
I
site
could
kind
and
of
I
got too much
understand.
for her to handle. But she said, that something Star Wars has kind of delved into nowadays is like the 1,000 characters, like storytelling. So one of the reasons that I love Legends so much is that it focuses in on Luke, Leia, and Han, and then people who have relationships to them, and there may be a story here or there that kind like Cornhorn. Cornhorn has his own book, features Luke, Wedge Antilles, like all these people, but it still focuses in on him, and they're more character-driven stories versus a ensemble, if that makes sense.
I do, because from the small amount of sample of Legends material that I have read it or listened to, whatever you want to call it, is it focuses in on the title character. Like the two that spring to my mind are Bane and Revan. Like
Mhm.
they focus on them, but the accompanying cast of characters is so engrossing. So like once you meet your main character in Bane and you meet these other people, like you're so engrossed in the story that like you don't even realize that you went 2 chapters talking about this side character before you swing back to your main character. And to
Yeah.
me, that is the mark of, and I'm not as well read as you, admittedly, and stuff like that, but to me that is a mark of a like a good story or a good engaging story. And maybe that's preferences and taste and stuff, but to me that's what it does, to where you get me in on this character, like, and I'm meeting the characters with him, and then like I said, before I even know it, I've just went 2 chapters with this side character that I really liked and didn't even realize or miss my
Yeah.
my main protagonist or whatever. So like that's it's hard to do with an ensemble cast, and I'm actually going to bring that up when we get to the Bad Batch, about how this is not a show about the Bad Batch. This is not an ensemble. This is the Hunter and Omega show, which we'll get into that when we get there. And then you just basically have a side cast of characters that are accompanying those two. But we'll get there when we get. So I definitely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, which is like where I think like Alphabet Squadron, which you can't see, but it's right. Like
Mhm.
I've got Victory's Price right here. I haven't picked it back up. It's really good, but it's got so many perspectives that you have to deal with. And when
Mhm.
in Legends you've got this main set of characters that are telling you a story, and then you may spin off onto one or two characters' side paths, but you're not having to follow 5 different voices within the same chapter.
Well, like Revan's a perfect example. The only experience I had, well, I know a little bit. I've seen YouTube videos, like I've told you about the cutscenes from the Old Republic stuff to watch. But is that
Yeah.
Revan Legends book, and like just reading like Revan's your main character, but it's been a while since I did it. But the Mandalorian that's like accompanies him, who's like kind of earned like they earned each other
Mhm.
respect that he works with. Bastila, that his old general, like that, what's her name, that gives her life basically, and was like his right hand. Like you get more enthralled with her. Even the droids are going through, like, yeah, like it's just the mark of a good storytelling. Like I could follow any of them, and just talking a little bit about Darth Malak in that book and stuff. Like I wanted to, like, I want to see this relationship with those two when they were Jedi, and I want to. And granted, I could play the game and do the rise and fall and go through all that, but like I would like another set of books or even like an anime. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just
Yeah.
where you just, like I said, it's just the mark of a good thing when you just get lost in the entire story, and it's just all through the one. You know, you see through one eyes, but you just go through. I don't know. I'm trying to say all that very poorly that I agree with you.
And we said all that to talk about Zack Snyder, but
Yeah, well, wait,
that's how we got on that trail.
we chase swamp rats every now and then. We get a couple in there. But like I said, I do want to bring up the ensemble thing when we get to Bad Batch.
Yes, I would agree. So, but we got two more things in news to cover.
Sure.
So, John Boyega said in an interview, so this was last year, but
Mm-hmm.
people are finding it again, just like the Dave Filoni thing.
Sure.
He had previously stated he'd be fine coming back to Star Wars if Daisy Ridley and Oscar Isaac returned, but it come to light that I'm reading verbatim again. He's expanded who he wants to work with again, with being J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd love to work with them again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the verbatim quote is, "I'm open to the conversation as long as it is Kathleen, JJ, and maybe someone else in the team. It's a no-brainer."
I just love that ever since like the Rise of Skywalker, you know, like the sequel trilogy has ended. John Boyega has done nothing but take subtle shots at Rian Johnson without ever bringing his name up and without ever actually pointing it out. Like when they're talking about, you know, like when he came out, he's like, "Oh, the Rise of Skywalker." He's like, "Yeah, you know, my character got shit on, and they did this and they did that. Hey, but that's not my boy JJ's." And everybody just stopped and went, "Motherfucker, there was only 2 directors, so if it wasn't JJ, who are you talking about?" You know what I mean? Like, just I don't know. It's just like I just love how he just kind of subtly, like, even there, he's like, "Oh, I'd love to come back to Star Wars as long as it's Kathy and JJ," and that's all I'm saying. You know, maybe somebody new. So everything except for he's done everything except for God, I hate Rian Johnson's storytelling because he's too diplomatic and too nice for that, and wants to keep his career. And like, you know what I mean? It doesn't look good when actors are shitting on directors and vice versa. But I just
Yeah.
to maybe it's me reading too much into it, but like every time I hear something like that, I read between the lines. I'm like, this motherfucker does. He ain't even gonna put Rian Johnson's name in his mouth, but he still shreds him without even saying a word about him.
I'd be hard pressed to disagree. However, I still can't get over the fact that he literally cried, "Ray, Ray!" in
Oh
Rise of
my
Skywalker.
god, Ray
And
Poe, the entire sequel trilogy. Like if we're gonna look at it, Finn's his entire, like there's probably like 40 minutes of him just screaming characters' names in the entire sequel trilogy, and that's it.
And I like, here's my disclaimer. I know y'all talked about Last Jedi last time, but like Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker are two of my favorite Star Wars movies. They sit currently at 1 and 2 right now. However, that's
Of
not
all
to say that,
time.
yes, for me.
Whoa, that break. Whoa. I think you just broke the internet. I think literally everything I just heard a record scratch like that. From a long-term Star Wars fan like yourself, that is a bold statement, and one that I'm not going to disagree with. Because, like I said, like that's not
For
my
me,
personal choice, but that is crazy. I would not expect that from you. Nice.
For me, I think my biggest thing is that they're really well done
Okay.
as separate films. But
Sure.
in terms of telling a greater story within the sequel trilogy, like sequel trilogy as a whole, number 3. What?
Right.
So
If you're judging
original, prequel,
trilogies, yeah.
sequel.
Right. I get it.
I'm not. That's not to say that it couldn't have been better planned, but as a whole, they're just such great films. So that's all I'll say there. But
Well, while we're talking about that, I don't know if this was your last news item or whatever, but
we have one
JJ,
more. It's
is it
J.J.
about
Abrams'
JJ?
movie.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I was gonna say because he did a
Nah,
recent interview where he was like, they were like, "Oh, what have you learned and stuff?" He's like, "Well, I learned that it's okay to have your mystery box stuff, but man, you basically it was basically, man, you really should have a plan." And basically, the sequel trilogy taught him that relay race shit doesn't work because they're 3 distinctively different movies that are supposed to be connected. I don't know. I just was like, motherfucker, we've been saying this for years now. For years, we've been saying, hey, they should have had a plan because this relay race isn't working. You know, like it's just kind of
necessarily
nice that
think
he
that's
finally came
JJ's
out.
fault. I don't
No,
think
no.
that's JJ's fault. I
Well,
think
to be
that's the
fair,
story group and like upper leadership choosing to go in this direction.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely, it sits on Kathleen Kennedy's shoulders. She was the one that greenlit this, and she should have had an outline of something to do. And I'm sorry, that's not me just pop shotting Kathleen Kennedy. That is the absolute truth. She is the leader of this division and this film session. It was on her shoulders to helm this and pick the right people to do this, and she dropped the ball on that. And that's just what happened, people. That's not me trying to be something. That's just the honest to God truth. She dropped the ball. It's the,
yeah, and I don't disagree with that. And I think Kathleen Kennedy's made a lot of good decisions with Star Wars.
sure.
So it's not to say I'm disagreeing with you, but I think that definitely because JJ was never supposed to direct more than one film with this. He
Absolutely.
was always supposed to direct The Force Awakens. That's what he was good at with Star Trek. He reignited that franchise right there with the first one.
He did.
So everyone knew, okay, he's gonna do well with the first one. And then you had Ryan, and then you had Colin Trevorrow. I think also you had if you had Duel of the Fates in here, according to what I've read from that script and what people have said about it, like I think that would have been a great episode 9 to end on. So I think it's ultimately upper leadership. Like Kennedy, like the article where Trevorrow left said exited due to creative differences. That's upper leadership making that decision right there. So JJ had to come through with a script in
Well,
6 months to try and get it done.
just talking on leadership before we get back to the, like, I just want to put a pin in the sequels, but just talking leadership and all in an overall, like we were literally just making jokes about like, are all these projects even going to get greenlit because the debacle with Rogue One, which I mean turned out to be fantastic. That is my favorite Disney offering. But the debacle with the directors on there, Solo, like we know the nonsense there. They start and stops of we're gonna have a Boba Fett movie. We're not gonna have a Boba Fett movie. We're gonna have a Kenobi movie. We're not gonna have a Kenobi movie. Oh wait, but we're gonna bring it to a series now that we have the streaming thing going. We're gonna do solo Star Wars stories every alternating year. Oh, we're not gonna do it. You know, and that is a leadership and a management failing. But I want to also praise her because you don't get season 7 of the Clone Wars, and you don't get the Mandalorian's 2 seasons without Kathleen Kennedy either. You know what I mean? And the talking about the plan thing with JJ, for as much shit as I give Ryan Johnson, JJ started the mystery box. Because you're right, it was supposed to just be one and done with him. So he was like, well, here are all these seeds I'm going to throw out here and plant. And it falls on Kathleen Kennedy for not going, okay, Ryan, you have to pick up on at least 1 or 2 of these seeds. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm just trying to say there's blame all around for the sequel trilogy if we're doing the blame game itself. But JJ's not immune to it, and it wasn't all Ryan. And it, like I said, this all squarely falls on Kathleen Kennedy's shoulders, for better or for worse, for whatever. But it just sucks that like the sequel trilogy had to be the growing pains. You know what I mean? Like we
well,
like
and
7,
I
8,
disagree.
9.
They've just had growing pains. If they'd said, okay, we're gonna do several individual Star Wars stories before jumping into a full trilogy, they may have gotten their growing pains out of the woods there because Rogue One and Solo both had creative issues.
Well, to be fair, if I'm being fair is fair, George Lucas kind of hamstrung him on that because he had already had loose deals in place with Carrie, Mark, and Harrison. He had his story treatments now. If you go back to like the whole Bob Iger his memoir talking about it. When they first discussed it, George wanted Pixar money. He didn't have nearly enough in new development, so they offered him something lower. George was kind of pissy and was like, no. Then he went and talked to George, Carey, and Harrison, got those signed on, saying that we're going to do this. He got 3 rough idea story treatments for the sequel trilogy itself. And then when they went back to the table, that rose his stock, and he got basically Pixar money like he wanted. So they kind of had to jump into a sequel trilogy just because of the way it was bought and what George had already put into motion. So to be fair is to be fair.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, and this is maybe one of my failings as a Star Wars fan, but I've never been into the behind the scenes crap.
Neither have I, but I
can't get into it.
Podcasts that are. I do listen to podcasts that are, and I pick up on little nuggets of things. Like I would never just sit down and read Bob White or listen to his memoirs. But when a Star Wars podcast picks out like these juicy nuggets that are relevant to what we talk about, and they discuss it in length, like, oh, okay, now I get it, because you're like you, I'm not going to sit down and get into all that minutia.
Yeah. All right. So the J.J. Abrams interview. So the question was asked about the creative handoff between The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Specifically, does he feel the Star Wars trilogy would have benefited from having a plan from the very beginning? In answering, Abrams drew from his wealth of experience in television. And I'm sorry, I know how this thing goes, so we did get a question about this too, so I want to make sure I get this quote right before answering that. So JJ said, I've been involved in a number of projects that have been, in most cases, series that have ideas that begin the thing where you feel like you know where it's going to go. And sometimes it's an actor who comes in. Other times it's a relationship that, as written, doesn't quite work. And things that you think are going to just be so well received, just crash and burn. And other things that you think like, oh, that's a small moment, or that's a one episode character suddenly become a hugely important part of the story. I feel like what I've learned is a lesson a few times now, and it's something that especially in this pandemic year working with writers has become clear. The lesson is that you have to plan things as best you can, and you always need to be able to respond to the unexpected. And the unexpected can come in all sorts of forms, and I do think that there's nothing more important than knowing where you're going. There are projects that I've worked on where we had some ideas, but we hadn't worked through them enough. Sometimes we had some ideas, but then we weren't allowed to do them the way we wanted to. I've had all sorts of situations where you plan things in a certain way and you suddenly find yourself doing something that's 180 degrees different. And then sometimes it works really well and you feel like, wow, that really came together. And other times you think, oh my God, I can't believe this is where we are. And sometimes when it's not working out, it's because it's what you planned. And other times when it's not working out, it's because you didn't have a plan. One more.
Okay.
You just never really know, but having a plan, I've learned in some cases the hard way, is the most critical thing, because otherwise you don't know what you're setting up. You don't know what to emphasize, because if you don't know the inevitable of the story, you're just as good as your last sequence or effect or joke or whatever, but you want to be leading something inevitable. Please hold. Nathan has dropped from the chat.
I'm back. Sorry. I got the gist of what you were saying. Sorry. I know. I'm sorry. I knew that was going to happen. Knew it was going to happen. Sorry, guys. I'm dealing with technical issues. You get about an hour into recording, and my shit just literally shuts down and kicks out, and I have to go back. It's a whole fucking nightmare. I'm sorry. I'm back.
It's okay. So, the question we got, I should have pulled that up while you were gone. But, okay, so what do you think about that? Why pull this up?
I think that it's hilarious that the guy who started Felicity in such a grounded universe by season 3 was like this weird supernatural shit, because that just proves there's no plan. He has a plan, but he has a plan, but he has no plans for like a season 2 or like an episode 2 or like a movie 2, because you look at that, you look at Lost, and I know that he was basically just like, he helped get it started and was the producer, and I forget who the main showrunner was, but JJ gets a lot of that crap too because like Lost started out, you know what I mean? They had one great season and then it became like this blockbuster. You know, like people were loving it and they were like, shit, what do we do now? And I'm somebody who like Lost from episode 1 to the even to the wacky weird end. So I say this as a fan, but I even when you get to the Star Trek stuff, you know, the Star Trek, like he's a great, he can relaunch a franchise. Oh, thanks, honey. He can relaunch a franchise, but he doesn't usually know where to go after he gets you the ground piece, you know, the groundwork. Like he lays you the groundwork, and then after that, he's kind of like, man, I don't know where to go.
Yeah. So the Rise of Skywalker script was written by Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that hit him hard was trying to deal with how Carrie Fisher died.
Yeah.
So that was a big factor. And obviously there's things that you can never expect, but ultimately you want to be able to give, I mean, these characters have been around for 40 years now, 40 plus years now. So you want to give these characters a fitful ending.
You're absolutely right. Chris and JJ did the best they could do with the unfortunate passing of Carrie Fisher because for what little plan they did have for the sequel trilogy, we did know that the 3 main characters were supposed to each basically get their own movie kind of send off, and it just, you know, life happens. Whether, you know, and yeah, it was a lot of by Carrie's own hand. The reason why she died so young, because you can't put your body through that much drug abuse and substance abuse at that age and still think you're going to cry. Either way, it was unfortunate for everybody involved and so I do sympathize for how hard of a place they were in, because like the movie was supposed to be, and yeah, they had time to rework it and rewrite it, but you have Luke who's a Force ghost, Han is gone, and you know what I mean, like it's just very hard. You can't really put it on Chewie. They did what they could with Lando, but I do sympathize because it was so hard to even and for as wonky and as weird as it is, like I am glad that they were able to work that footage of Carrie in there. So you know, they were hamstrung all the way around. So Rise of Skywalker, I give more of a pass for the sequel trilogy than anything else, just because of now Lucasfilm, you know, put themselves in that bind with how everything was, but they were in such a massive bind.
No. So,
but I do think it's funny that he's kind of like, you know, after 20 years of doing great setups and never really know where to go, or like, you know, it's 45 years, he's finally coming out like, you know what, a plan, guys. I need a fucking plan. I need a beginning. I'm great at beginnings. Middles I do all right with, but I ain't got a shot with ends. And now he's going, you know what, I'm going to start planning my fucking ending first and work backwards. But, you know what I mean? It's just be saying.
Yeah. And so he says having a plan is the most critical thing. However, again, I would just look at it like, okay, he worked with Carrie probably the most. I would have argued maybe Ryan could have had a better shot at episode 9 going from what he laid off for it, but clearly he had other stuff in the works with like Knives Out and stuff. So he may have not been able to handle it.
I think just weird speculation, but I think Disney just was like, I don't think we need it. And I think at the time it was anybody but Ryan. But that's neither here nor there. That's probably a whole nother podcast. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stomp that down. But I think that was a situation of literally anybody but Ryan Johnson to come in and help do this last one.
I think the biggest thing for why I think Ryan maybe could have done it a little bit better is because
kind of agree with you.
He worked with Carrie so much on the edits for The Last Jedi and kind of knew what story she was going for in that end.
But at the same time,
she was making edits to The Last Jedi and going, damn it, Ryan, this 9th movie better be mine. This 9th movie better be mine.
That's
kind of like arguing with him back and forth about it. So I don't know if JJ and Carrie had that kind of back and forth going with things.
Well, I will.
But Carrie was a writer. She wrote her own books. Like she's
a famous writer. Script doctor.
Famous writer.
Too. Script doctor. They would send her scripts that she would go over and change for a lot. Like, I can't think of any credits right now, but there's a lot of like stuff that you know and love that Carrie Fisher had a hand in reworking the script.
Yeah. So I don't know if JJ allowed her to do that with like the Force Awakens stuff. So I don't know.
If you look at the two Force Awakens, you can tell she's getting her feet back under her. The Last Jedi, like she is General Leia, Princess Leia, whatever. Like she is fully Leia in that movie, I feel like. And you know what? Just to back you up, I honestly, I probably would maybe the sequel trilogy would have flowed better if Ryan would have flowed 8 into 9. That's an interesting that I hadn't even thought of that. But that's a hell of a thought. You know what I mean? Like in another world, I'm sure that happen. I'd like to take a peek into that world to see how that worked out.
I don't know. But okay. So the question is from Clay, who hosts DC. Actually, no, he's suspended this week pending investigation by Geekverse for comments against the hosts. AKA Mr. Snell.
These
Nathan's over here shaking his head.
They kill me with their nonsense. Anyway.
I don't get it either. But Clay hosts DC Alliance and Ranger Alliance, and he said in news this week, J.J. Abrams admits it would have been critical to have a plan for the sequel trilogy. With Dave Filoni as the new executive creative director, can we expect a more MCU type shift in Star Wars? I've already said my piece. I said hell no, please, hell no.
See,
what's your thoughts, Nathan?
I think Clay's looking at this wrong. Like I think Dave Filoni is, to an extent, is being set up for kind of like a Kevin Feige, but it's not gonna be. Star Wars is not the MCU to where everything has to spin out, where you can have your Guardians out here or whatever, but it all has to come back to eventually Thanos and stuff. This is like Dave Filoni, like Ryan. Okay, let's just say for shits and giggles, Ryan Johnson. Let's just say the buck does stop with Dave Filoni. Let's say he becomes the yes or the no man. If Ryan Johnson came to him and said, I have my character piece, I want to do this trilogy about this and that or whatever. If Dave Filoni thinks it fits in the Star Wars universe, now they can't go there, and he wants to use warp speed and fucking, beam me up, Scotty. Like Filoni's like, hey, whoa, it's a different franchise. But if he wants to come in and use that setting or whatever, I think Dave goes, yeah, because not everything has to come back to the Emperor or Vader or whatever. You know what I mean? Each trilogy fixes that up. So I say all this to say, like, Dave Filoni, like, even if he gets the quote, the Feige treatment, he's not going to be a Kevin Feige. This isn't the MCU. We're not all building to a Loki, an Ultron, a Thanos, eventually Galactus. We're not doing that. This is just going to be, you know what I mean? If Ryan Johnson had a good idea to fill in the gap of how the First Order came in there, well, that's in parameters. That's go, you know what I mean? And Dave would go, if they tried to say that Qui-Gon Jinn stayed alive and he created the First Order, Dave's going to go, what the fuck are you doing? No, he didn't. That's not canon. But if he wanted to come in and say, that one of the Emperor's admirals came in and like took this and did that, well, that's a different story. It works in the parameters. So no, I don't think he's a Kevin Feige, but at the same time, Star Wars doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? Like I know this High Republic event is leading up to something, so maybe that event specifically, but Star Wars as a whole doesn't lead to like a Galactus or a Thanos or whatever. Like the Emperor's already dead. We did that in the original trilogy. He was our Thanos. You know what I mean?
There's different cases, and we'll talk about this more with like Thrawn Ascendancy, which I think is getting in a good direction, but also like the High Republic, where I think you can have certain spectacles, but the MCU is always going to have like it has a team at one point, and then it has different heroes who come in, but it's like it's not spanning millennia. It's spanning this part.
There you go.
And whereas Star Wars, like we're 200 years before now with
exactly
the High Republic, and like in Legends, things go back 5,000 years before the original trilogy.
Well, Clay's reading the Bane trilogy right now, and I think that's a perfect example. That's still Star Wars. You're still in the universe. You're still using the terminology, the technology. You're still using the worlds, but you don't have to, like what Bane doesn't have to set up Vader, 5,000 years later, or the Emperor. And if you're doing an MCU type, like look at all of them. Captain America set up their whole universe. Captain Marvel, like, you know what I mean? They're all interconnected. Like Bane and Revan are perfect examples. If you can do the Knights of the Old Republic, you can literally do whatever you want and just keep it in the Star Wars parameters, but it's so far away that it doesn't affect Luke or the Empire or the Republic even, or the Clone Wars or any of that. So I think I think it like I agree with you, Katie. I don't think it works the same way as the MCU, because even if they do stuff in the very, very, very far past, they're going to connect it to the Loki in them. That's a perfect thing. You know, the Asgardians went thousands of years and they had this tree built, but the Tesseract was there because we're all building this one big story and this one thing.
Yeah. And you have to follow every single bit of it. Whereas like with the High Republic, you don't have to read the High Republic to understand what's happening right now in Star Wars. There's several points in MCU that you're like, why are we talking about this gym?
Yeah, exactly.
A new person coming in.
Perfect example
So
is you can know what the rule of two is and Bane's name and that he created it without knowing the Legends Bane trilogy. But if you do have the Legends Bane trilogy, you're more pumped. But you don't have to have that piece, like you're saying. You know, like talking to the MCU, like where you'd have to have that because of that background. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think I've answered it. I'm just gonna keep talking in circles. No, Clay, I don't think it works that way.
And the final point I want to make is so there was 2 executive creative directors before Dave Filoni was published, at least. So you've got John Knoll, who is the executive creative director, senior visual effects supervisor, ILM, and then you have Doug Chiang, excuse me for my pronunciation,
something like that.
Chiang, vice president and executive creative director, Star Wars. And then you have Dave Filoni, who is executive producer, executive director. There is no mention for what he's involved in. This is Lucasfilm specifically. This isn't Disney Star Wars executive creative director.
You know what's awesome about those 3 names? You can trace those all the way back to when Lucasfilm, when Industrial Light and Magic got into the animation style of 3D, aka the Clone Wars movie, which means, aka all 3 of these people, these men learned under George Lucas. Like they literally learned at the heel of Lucas. Now they all had different positions and different things. They're like the other 2 men. They aren't the Filoni, the basically the Padawan, but they were all there learning how to, whether it be visually make Star Wars, like with the Clone Wars, or storytelling or character design. So like these 3 heading that up, like that is so they understand the world. I'm not saying that they look up everything George did or they're like that, you know what I mean? But they, like George passed his knowledge on of like what his imagination was for this world and the kind of storytelling and stuff. So I just think that's a really good sign to where I think that's a good, it'll feel like Star Wars, without like the legacy is being carried on with these 3.
Right. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like with the fact that this is for Lucasfilm and not like Dave Filoni, like they've got Star Wars on here listed for several people, including Doug, and Star Wars isn't listed for Filoni. And I get he's the Star Wars guy, but Lucasfilm also encompasses Indiana Jones, Willow.
Absolutely.
So there's
Howard
other
the
things
Duck.
that he could be involved in. Huh? Power of the
Howard
Duck.
the Duck.
Howard the Duck. So I just think this doesn't change anything. This just gives him additional responsibility in terms of maybe vetoing some creative stuff.
And I think this gives Kathleen Kennedy license to get more invested in Indiana Jones 5 and the Willow series, which are both announced. Because like you said, that is a part of that. And that also falls under Kathleen's jurisdiction. Plus she has this for blood or let there be blood or so I maybe I'm wrong, but there's another, I want to say, new unique project that is coming from Lucasfilm that is something she's helming or producing. So with these 3 in place, I do think it gives the opportunity for her to obviously the buck stops with her, but she can turn her head more to these other projects, knowing that these 3 plus the creative team, the keepers of the canon, with all these pieces in place, she's more freed up to go over here and go, okay, I'm going to get Indiana Jones 5 actually rolling, or the Willow series that we need to start doing casting and build sets and stuff. You know what I mean? It gives her more opportunity to come like, hey, let me go take care of my other flowers in my garden.
Exactly. So that's all I got to say about that.
Me too.
I did.
Me too.
So we're going to take an ad break. I don't know if it'll be our final one or not, but we will come right back for Bad Batch because I want to save Greater Good for last.
Okay.
All right. I have to run to the restroom real fast. Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What are you yelling at? Yeah, in a minute. Just wanted to see what you were yelling. What did you say? I heard forever. I was wondering. Come on, you put me way down. All right. I forgot we're still live on YouTube if anybody's watching. Hello. Oh. If anybody hasn't picked it up, this book is great. Thrawn is a great character, and I highly suggest reading his canonization. Katie, we can hear you. Oh, you didn't wash your hands, Katie. Katie, get in there and wash your hands. Damn it. Mm-hmm. Katie, we heard you not wash your hands.
No, I put myself on mute, so there's no way you heard me do anything.
Just kidding. All right, and we're back.
And we are back. Let me write down this time. 1:10:50.
Yeah.
So, Bad Batch, episodes 4 and 5, because we are bi-weekly, so we do 2 episodes at once. They're short episodes, so it's not that huge
Half
deal,
an hour
right?
apiece.
So let's dive into the Bad Batch episode 4,
Cornered.
which I thought was what?
Cornered. Name
Cornered.
of the episode, Cornered.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we get our introduction to Fennec Shand in this timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Who is voiced by Ming-Na Wen. So that's always a good thing. You hear the same voice going for her, so
Consistency.
It's a prop.
Mm-hmm.
Prop. Anyways, that's not the word I meant, but
I get it. I got you.
So we are on Ida Floor. They're proposed.
You're the floor.
They're having to stop on Pantora, so they can gather supplies. And they've found out that the ship's on the Empire's wanted list. So they've got to do a couple things while they're on Pantora.
Chain codes come into play for the first time.
You know, chain codes.
The Empire is implementing chain codes, which is. But when you get to the original trilogy, you can see like how every ship's scanned, how the Empire knows who everybody is, and you got to have scramblers or different codes, and they used old codes to get past that. It's just they are world building. You can see the transition. You know what I mean? You can see how they're going.
I find it interesting though because like Boba Fett in The Mandalorian has a chain code, but if chain codes weren't implemented till the Empire, how did he get a chain code?
Perhaps he got caught. Maybe the Empire caught him. He broke out, or you know what I mean? Like we know that the Empire uses him, but maybe the reason they use him is because they had him in a cell. And Boba, he'll go for the highest bidder. You could be his captor, but if you come to him and say, "I'm going to give you this many credits to get to your job," he's got one purpose. You know what I mean? He is a bounty hunter. He will take the credits and go. I don't know. There's a story there, maybe. I
don't know. But what did you think of this episode?
I do really, really like the connective tissue with Fennec Shand. I liked the homage or the callback to episode 2, Attack of the Clones, in this cornered episode, because it's Fennec is basically Zam Wexel, and then you got the Hunter and them being like Anakin and Obi-Wan running through the streets saying, "I know everybody hates episode 2 and the car stuff," and I don't know. Everybody knows I'm a prequel fan. I'm even a Attack of the Clones connected with me on this weird level back in the day when it came out. It hit me at the right
Attack of the Clones is my favorite prequel. So
like it came out, like it hit me at this weird teenage thing where I wanted to be Anakin and I wanted to go to this beautiful place with a Padme. And so I don't know. I love the movies, what I'm trying to get at, but like I did like a lot of the callbacks. I love the George Lucas Easter egg in this episode that not many people are calling out, or I haven't heard people call out. In episode 2, George Lucas plays the King of the Pantorans. He's they show the can, he's all blue and stuff. In the Clone Wars, we go to the moon of Pantora, which when they're coming out on that shot, you can see the main planet here, that blue moon. Yeah. That's where Anakin and Obi-Wan went when that little girl. But basically, when Ahsoka loses her. I think it's when she loses her lightsaber or whatever, she runs into this guy. But anyway, that character is like, even when they did the Clone Wars model, it was modeled after George Lucas. And so really it was an Easter egg. We went to the planet of George Lucas in universe.
It released right around his 77th birthday. So
yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool. I have to admit that I'm getting a little like that. Okay, quartered. I was like, I get what they're going for, but come on. Like, are we going to have, okay, Omega, well, I want to go, even though you're a 10-year-old. Okay, that's fine. But, like, you're going to cause the problem and solve the problem. I don't know. This week's episode, or last week's episode, does a little better with that. But for the first 3 episodes, I feel like she is the problem or causes the problem. And the whole time it should have been just stay on the ship. You don't bring a 10-year-old into bed. Okay, like, I really had this problem where we're in this dark, I think it was like episode 3. Like, we're on this dark planet. There's all this scary shit outside or whatever. It's dark. It's like, yeah, come on, let's bring you outside. We're gonna go. I don't know. It got better. There's a lot of things I liked about episode 4's Cornered. Omega is growing on me, but it's just kind of like I roll my eyes at some of the stuff, and then other times I smile at her. But it's just my favorite part of that episode was Ming Na Wen, as Fennec Shand coming in there. And kind of the homages to episode 2 and going. And what I was going to say while we're here is this is not the Bad Batch. This is not an ensemble. This is the Hunter and Omega show of, we want to show this. We want to show Charlie Sheen from Hot Shots, who's imitating, Sylvester Stallone from Rambo as Hunter taking on this child, and the fatherly instincts kicking in, and she's going to be more than meets the eye because she's also a clone, and we don't know what her special thing is, but she seems to be able to mimic or absorb whatever the other people are doing. And I don't know, why call it the Bad Batch? Why say it's going to be an ensemble if you're not going to do it like an ensemble? Because I'm getting really ticked off at finding a reason for Wrecker to stay behind. And Tech is always going to stay at the ship to do Tech things. And Echo, he might get to come out, or he's got to stay over there to help do that stuff too. So it's just Hunter and Omega.
There was one part in here where they're trying to get credits, right? And like selling their last explosive.
Yes.
And they bring Echo out, and he's like got the faceplate on, so he looks like a military droid, right?
Yeah, that's what's so cool. Look, it looked so cool.
It was a cool look. But what really pissed me off was like when Hunter is like bargaining, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'll buy him," and it's like. And Echo's like, yeah, not for that many credits. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Echo's dealing with a lot of stuff right now, like trying to recover from where he was at, and none of that's being explored. Like, and so like that the thing he's wearing, that's like what Lobot wears.
Yeah, that's the Lobot thing.
So in some cases, like, and this, like, was it Rebels who also had those?
I believe it was Clone Wars, because Padme's Uncle Ono, which is the Greedo alien. There's that one with the star. There's like these episodes where like he betrays, but he comes back, and then we don't see him for a while. And I guess the Separatists get him, and then Padme finds him, and he's got the Lobot tech, and he's almost went crazy from all the information. But like something, or maybe it's Rebels when they find him, but like something happens, and he helps get him out of a jam. But there's been other situations where, and I remember the Greedo species, like it damn near drove the guy crazy because that's basically just so they can process more information. It's from my understanding. They can turn their brain into a computer, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and I don't like those. And like I get like it's probably helping keep him alive and stuff, and it's aiding him in some cases. But like, and I know he could have easily just walked out of there. He did walk out of there for all intents and purposes. But it's like, it's stuff where he's like, I was literally used as a resource for the Separatists for years, like several months at least. and now I'm just being used as a resource again so we can
Yeah.
get more credits. So I liked the introduction for Fennec in here. Who do you think she's hunting? Because there's like several speculations where they're like, oh, they're hunting like she's hunting the Bad Batch or Echo specifically to like get
She's hunt.
information from the Separatists. I think she's hunting Omega.
She is hunting Omega for sure.
She had the hologram.
She's hunting Omega. Whoever, they must not have paid attention to the Cornered episode if they're still thinking that, because she's clearly after Omega. Like, that is the bounty. Now, whether or not the Kaminoans put that out there, or was it Tarkin? Was it Tarkin doing it, or the Kaminoans? However you want to say it. But either way, like, but that one obviously sent her with the Bad Batch to get her out of there for whatever reason. And then you had so I'm just, if it's the Kaminoans, like, why? Like, obviously they got her out of there because Tarkin was there or whatever they do, but now they're trying to bring her back. Why? She's Omega for a reason. She's the last, whether it be the last Jango clone, whether it be the last of some special person we've never known about or whatever. Like, there's a reason she's called Omega. There's a reason why they say that she's one of the Bad Batch. Although it is very interesting that they never call her sister. They never call her sister. They never call her batchmates. To whatever. Like, because everybody else is brothers. My brothers, even Crosshair, is still my brother. They don't call her sister. She doesn't call them brother. So it's interesting. They know she's a clone, but I don't believe she's a Jango. Like, there's a lot of people that went, well, it's Jango just as a lady, and I'm sure they could do that because it's just XY's chromosomes or whatever, but I just don't see why that would make more sense to where they just be like, we've got all these clones, but you know what? We're just gonna mess around. We're just gonna make this one a chick. Just for, I don't know. To me, it doesn't make story sense. So I got a feeling she's somebody, and I'm curious why. Like I said, obviously they're really dragging us out with who is put the bounty out there. You know what I mean? They're still kind of stringing us along, but it's Omega, and she's important for whatever reason, and that's going to be a part of our journey, is finding out who put the bounty and why.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you with Omega. Like, I think a lot of people are taking because she's voiced by a New Zealander.
A Kiwi.
So what? Yeah.
A Kiwi, New Zealand. Got Australians and New Zealanders. They hate that they get compared to each other. They fucking hate each other. They're calling each other Kiwis and C words and everything else. It's just funny. They call New Zealanders Kiwis.
Gotcha. She's voiced by Michelle Ang, who is a New Zealander, and so I think people are taking that as like, because Tamura is from New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are just kind of spinning off and going, "Oh, this is why she's a Jango." I don't think she's a Jango clone though.
I don't
because
think so either.
it just doesn't make sense. I still am thinking like, okay, they tried like cloning a Jedi at this point, and so kind of it's her right now, and she doesn't have any force powers, but she has like the abilities to like pick things up like a typical Jedi has.
She wasn't born but she's 10ish. We know from just what we know from the films and all that, you can force grow them, but even to get them 10, it takes about a year and a half, 2 years, whatever the units are, whatever the measurement, because they're force grown. And even if she is force, for lack of a better word, force grown, accelerated, she was starting to be created at the very beginning of the Clone Wars, at the very least, or even if she was an unaltered clone, because she's about the same age as Boba. Even if she was an unaltered clone, this goes back to Sifo Dyas and stuff. So who is she? Yep. She's not, like I said, she's not a clone of Jango. I don't think Jango is like, I want a boy and a girl, and only took Boba under his wing and just left her to never see. You know what I mean? Like, she's somebody, but we need to know.
Because I think, like, if she was unaltered, you could say, okay, Jango accidentally left her behind at Attack of the Clones, and so they just kind of took her.
Sure, but Boba never going back to get his sister? Like, I think that would have been a Clone Wars.
No, I think Boba would have known.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking with she's not a Jango clone. I still don't know who she's a clone of. I think you could do Palpatine. I think you could do a random Jedi where Palpatine was like, okay, can I clone someone with Force abilities?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah,
What would you rate Cornered out of 5?
If I'm being honest, the entire series after Aftermath has just kind of been like, I don't know if my expectations were too much or it's just not speaking to me. And I know that like I was making jokes coming into it that it's gonna be the A team in space. And after this recent episode, no, I got it wrong. It's gonna be Charlie's Angels in space. Only that weird lady that's there that on the planet in this one that had the Rancor, she's the new Charlie. And the Bad Batch are her angels because she's you're gonna have to come back and I keep my mouth shut for this and that. Yeah, she's basically like if next episode it opens up and it just focuses on a speaker box and the Bad Batch are standing there and you just hear her voice giving like instructions and they all do turn back to back poses. I'm not even gonna blink. I'm not even gonna bat an eye because I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. It's Charlie's Angels. Gotcha.
I gotcha. Yeah, for me, it's not hitting what I want it to currently.
No,
Like,
thank you. I was wondering if it was just me.
I think if I'd like not watched it and then watch like 8 episodes and just like binge watch them, I think
Maybe.
it would work a little bit better. But and granted, most of my Clone Wars experience, like I watched the seasons, but the reason I love Clone Wars is because I watched it back to back to back and just kind of said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna finish the season today. And kind of watched all the stories grow.
Well, I know people give a lot of shit to those first handful of seasons of the Clone Wars, but maybe it's just my base or instinct or whatever. But I loved how one episode or one story arc you could be dropped into the middle of a battle that you'd had no idea about, and maybe even a brand new Jedi you'd never heard about. And by the end of the story arc, you were sad that they had died or captured or whatever. And then another episode, you could have Padme in the Senate, or with Jar Jar, or we could follow around the politics. Like I really like that, and in this, I'm not getting anything except for, like I said, I feel like that Omega causes the problem. Like they go they run out of fuel or they wrecked or they this or that, and then we got to complete a mission to be able to get our thing, and we go back, and she's gonna come along too because we want to train her as one of the I'm a Batman and Robin fan. I got no problem with grown men bringing kids into battle with them if it's done right. So, like, I'm not trying to put it like that, but it's like Omega comes in and causes the problem, and she's lost or captured, and we got to go back and get her, and everything's hunky-dory. We give a big hug, and then next episode, she's coming in, and she's going to do this, and she's going to get in trouble, and we're going to go get her again.
You know what it feels a lot like?
The
Mandalorian with Baby Yoda and Din.
See, I've heard people make that comparison, and on paper, like if you just watched it were just reading it on paper, I think I would tend to agree with you. So maybe it just comes down to execution, because Mandalorian executed it a lot better. But you're right, because what first comes to mind is that planet with the chicken walker that came in and was where he was going to leave Baby Yoda, just like on Cut and Run, where Hunter was going to leave Omega with the people because she deserves to be loved and have a family and stuff, but circumstances happen, and now you're coming back. And that reminds me of Din Djarin taking Grogu to, like I said, the weird farm planet with the fish lady, with the lady with the kids fishing and stuff.
I'm not saying the execution's better on the Mandalorian. What I'm saying is they're recycling a storyline or theory.
Oh, okay.
Which is what I was worried about kind of when I wrote the review for episode 2. Like, it feels a lot like we're just kind of recycling some things.
I feel like we're treading water for sure. Like, I feel like they're trying to lead this big lead up to, and who knows, maybe the back half of the season will be like, holy shit, like our faces is melting off. But if that's the case, we're definitely just treading water, because the last 2 episodes have felt so like filler. Oh, just filler for the sake of filler nonsense.
And like, I get sometimes you need that filler to help you build those characters.
Yes.
But the Bad Batch arc in Clone Wars Season 7 did plenty of that for me. The first episode of the Bad Batch introduced us to Omega, kind of introduced us to the situation that was going on. You could have easily merged, I think, episodes 2 and 3 together and said, this is one episode, and then 4, 5, and then whatever's coming next. I think there needs to be some cleaner storytelling. So
I agree. The Rancor, we saw Bib Fortuna, which I do like Bib and the Gamorrean guards. And now there's a lot of people being like, "Oh my God, Luke killed this thing, and it was bad." And that's it, and first of all, how do we know Jabba wasn't breeding these things, and there was many of them? How do we know he didn't have more than one little pit down there? And if you read the Return of the Jedi novelization, like you get to be inside of Luke's mind, and you know how George oversaw that, like. Luke thinks about how he's like sad that he has to do this, and it's not this creature's fault and stuff. So like, chill out, guys. Chill out.
no, and so Clay, I think it was Clay. Clay or Joe put this video in the Ultimate Alliance chat, and I had remembered this, but I couldn't remember where it's from. So this person basically was like, yeah. So you're thinking Luke killed Moochie, but in all actuality, he didn't, because the Rancor that he kills in Return of the Jedi is a male, and the name starts with a P. So it's not like the Hutts where they switch genders and for Rancors, or they may, but it's the name is completely different.
Wait a minute, the Hutts switch genders? What do you mean? Like, I thought they were asexual. Like they could just push out a little slug baby anytime they wanted to. Whether I don't think there's like Jabba's like humping or whatever to get little Stinky the Hutt, but I thought they were just like, you know what I'm saying, like a self-reproduce. What is that called? Okay. I can't think of the name for it right now, but you know what I mean, where you can just, because there's species of like fish and stuff where they can just self-reproduce when it's time to go. Like they don't need no man, you know what I'm saying, or no woman, whatever. They can just do it.
Okay, excuse me. So they are hermaphrodites.
No, there's a mama Hutt. There's a
hermaphrodites.
All right.
Which meant
you just
they had
offended an entire community, Katie. Good job. Good job. Get ready for cancellation. Okay.
One reason for this was because of the race's fertility rate being very low, which was possibly a consequence of damage following the loss of their original homeworld of Varl.
So, like, Han could have been like, "Jabba, go F yourself," and Jabba could have been like, "I already am, motherfucker, what?" I mean, hey, they had to have Rhoda. They had to have Rhoda somehow. That was Jabba's little Stinky the Hutt. That was his boy. He had to have done something. Go F yourself. I will, because I like it. He just slithers out of there. Okay,
welcome to Star Wars Lines.
Right. Moving on. Sorry.
So I really think we're both kind of at the same point where it's just let's see what else the Bad Batch can.
Wrecker's chip's gonna flip. I mean, they emphasize, I got this headache for so long.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Okay. Wait, I do want to call out one little thing that I did like that I thought was like this cute, like nice background touch in this episode Rampage. I forgot, they're talking to the lady or whatever, and you have Hunter in front, and you got Tech, Echo, and Wrecker's back here, and Omega's in the very back, and said something, and thanks to Omega or whatever. And it just like the three up front are just kind of like, little head nods. And Wrecker looks down at her, smiles, and he puts his hand out. She gives a little high five. And it's a blink and you miss it, but it's just like, that's a nice character touch. And that kind of building up, I love to see, you know what I mean? Like that to me, I feel the camaraderie with that. Like he just looks down and smiles, sticks his hand out. She gives this big, like excited high five. And then it's not focused on, and it just moves with the camera. That's the kind of stuff that those little subtle, just like now they're feeling like a team, And like I said, this is the Hunter and Omega show. If you were going to do an ensemble, for better or for worse, like you should have done it like Friends, where every character is a main character, where we could have just followed everybody. You know what I mean? Like everybody. But Omega can still be a main character, but I also want Tech, and I want Echo, and I want Wrecker. Like I want time with all of them. I want them to all be like that. Even where the fuck's Crosshair been for the last 3 episodes? I know technically he's bad now, but he's still a bad Batcher, and I want them. They're gonna save him, and I want to see more of him in the Empire, whether he's dwelling on his regrets, whether the chip has got him fully boosted to where he's just full Empire, or what, you know what I mean? Like I need some more Crosshair.
Yep.
But
completely agree.
We're in the same.
I think we're definitely on the same page.
Yeah, so we can move on. Hopefully it picks up, but right now it's not speaking to either of us. Besides that first episode, damn, that was good. Aftermath was really good, and I feel like we've fallen off a cliff. So we're treading water since then.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and
Okay.
take one more ad break.
Let's go.
I'm sorry, but Snell wants me to get these in. So
Yeah,
we
that's
will
fine.
come
That's
back
fine.
to talk about Ascendancy Greater Good.
Yes. And then we're out of here.
And 3, 2, 1. And we're back. Thanks, guys.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys. We are Thrawned up today, except I got my Baby Yoda shirt on.
I got my Thrawner going. Yes. Raging Thrawner. Got it here, guys. Look at us with our matching books. Where do you want to go?
So,
I'll let you lead it.
I really enjoyed it. I thought this was very clean. While saying that, I also think there still could have been more Thrawn.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. I do. I totally agree with you.
Y'all, this has been a miraculous Star Wars
Right.
Alliance.
Like, look at us go. Because
we are on the same page for everything.
Hey, wait, look. You hear this? That's same page, guys. We're turning same page. But no, I totally agree with you that there could have been more of him, and I don't like that it moved the story forward that they're telling, that what they're going for. But
Yeah.
Similarly, I kind of feel like we were treading water. Like it feels like the big, and not necessarily in the good way, but it feels like the big before the the shock of the third book coming, and not necessarily in a bad way, but I like the first Ascendancy book better. I will say. I found the first one better than this one, and I don't mean that I think this one's bad, but I like the first Ascendancy book better.
I think it's just my water just exploded.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to power through, so I was just trying to keep talking.
I'm sorry. I'm like now my blanket's wet. Like it's a little weird. I would actually. So I think this one's cleaner written than Chaos Rising.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit tighter storytelling. It tells a very good story.
Yeah.
And if the series was called Chiss Ascendancy, no problem with
it. Right. I get it.
It's Thrawn Ascendancy. So I'm like, where's my Thrawn?
Yeah, and I do agree with you because he, out of the new canon books, this is the fifth one of all five of the new canon. Like he was featured the least in this, like at all. You're right. This should have been called a Chiss Ascendancy because it was basically split right down the middle with Thrawn and then about 4 or 5 different other Chiss members. Which me, I'm a fan of Arlani. Like I do like meeting these newer characters, and I do like that the Timothy Zahn writes it from this perspective of. Not always, but a lot of time you get you get to view Thrawn through Arlani's eyes or whatever, and I really do like that storytelling trope or capability, but I feel like we didn't get any really first person from Thrawn in this or from anybody else. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Which this isn't necessarily like first person anything.
No.
I don't. No. So it's
actually now that I think about it, I don't know if any of his are first person.
No, I don't think they are.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like the very first Thrawn book from 2015. But at the same time, you had Vanto that was literally his shadow to be with him. But the way he experienced him and learned with him, I don't. You know what? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I don't feel like I had enough time. You know what I mean? Even with him, because there was a lot of other stuff going on. Like I didn't get a lot of time to see his brilliance or his subtle teaching methods. Because that's one of my favorite parts about this character is. He never shits on his commanders or his people underneath him. Nothing. He wants to lead them to where they figure it out on their own and like lift them up together. You know what I mean? He doesn't just come in and go, "No, you're wrong. This is this and this." He wants you to come and follow him. I don't feel like we got a lot of that with this, and that's one of my favorite aspects of the character.
Yeah, mine too, completely. Like we still get it. It's in here.
Yeah, you get it. Yes,
but there's not enough of it. And. Now, all that being said, I really appreciated how limited time we got with Thurfian, but that it was still explorative of where it's going. And obviously, so jumping right to the end, because this was the most intriguing part, was Thurfian has now been named the patriarch of the Myth family.
That was something that I went, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. So, and then kind of he's meeting with the assistant who's worked with the other patriarch. And the assistant's like, we will travel to the homestead, we will speak with the patrials and your staff, and we shall settle you into your new home. You'll have a good night's rest and a filling breakfast. And then I will tell you of the ancient history of the myth, the true history so long suppressed. And I will tell you of a terrible alien weapon known as Starflash. It's the last sentence of the book. Like, where are we going? Because I feel like there's not enough material here now to finish off like the Nick Gardoon storyline from the first book.
I think there is.
Nixis, and now this.
I think there is.
Why? Because I'm like, what?
Because it all ties together. The Nick Gardoon and what's his name? The main bad guy, the main one that we Jixus. Yeah, Jixus. I think that we don't ever see him. I think Jixus is one of the Chiss. Like he is a Chiss. Whether he grew up there, whether he did whatever, I think because we never see him. He's all shadowed. He knows a lot about the stuff. You know what I mean? I think that this weapon will tie into. He's gonna know about it, but they're setting the pieces with Thurfian getting set into that to for the military to get Thrawn out of there, but still keep him credible. Like when they quote exile him, and like he even says when we get to the Empire days, his job is to assess the So they basically we're in the third book when they send him out to be quote exiled to spy on the Empire to see if they're a good enough ally to go against Jixtus in this Star Forge or whatever they're gonna or Star Flash. Yeah. Like I think it was basically the parameters were go explore them, go be in their military, be high ranking, report back. So it makes the myths look good. It gets Thrawn out of their hair, so he can't do any political blunders. If he succeeds there, then hallelujah, the Chiss have a foothold in the Galactic Empire, and they can come in.
Yeah.
If he gets killed, it's no sweat off their back. I think they're all setting up to get going, but I think like my big speculation is that Jixtus is at least half of one of the Thrawn, the Chiss. At least you know what I mean. Whether a Chiss woman went out or a Chiss man and mingled with some other species and had a bastard or whatever, like he got left. But I think he's at least half Chiss.
Right.
That's my
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the Agbui? So we know this is roughly 3 months after Chaos Rising.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked having the memories from
that was an interesting touch, and about how like they just kept touching and probing and kind of going to find your desires to go around this jewelry and this art, basically this metal that is so hard. Like that's gonna come back and like there's gonna be this is gonna all tie in. Like maybe this Star Flash is gonna be built of this metal, so like you can't hardly destroy it. You know what I mean? Like one of the Legends things that I know of is like for Knights of the Old Republic, because like I said, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, was they had the Star Forge, and that was basically like a Death Star level weapon of like fucking world ending and could do like I don't have all the mechanics, but I know it was the Star Forge. It was this huge big MacGuffin. So the Star Flash could be something similar, like the Star. Maybe it's the Starlight Beacon and gets pushed completely out of fucking orbit of our galaxy 200 years ago and goes into and somehow makes it through the chaos and then goes through to that stuff over there, and it's the Starlight Beacon. Maybe they're tying it all together.
Mark this episode, y'all, because if that happens, I'm a mind fucking blown.
Right? I mean, it could happen.
That's a complete possibility. Like, and we know, like, they've weaved in several small ties into here, and it's like we know. So the Chiss world was compromised.
Yeah.
Like with the ice and everything. So if this like completely just shut them down, maybe even push them out of orbit depending on how big the planet was, so readjusted their orbit.
So High Republic takes 200 years before the events that these books are taking place what?
This
So
is
it's
during
10
the Clone
years.
Wars.
Oh, this is happening
like
during. Okay,
yeah,
so this is perfect
so
timeline.
Chaos Rising is in the middle of the Clone Wars.
That's
So
right.
this
Yes,
could
that's right.
be
Because he meets
right at the
Anakin.
start of Revenge of the Sith, roughly.
Okay, so look at it this way. That's 200 years ago. Does it say how long? Like I can't remember how long the Myth planet has been. You know, the Chiss planet's been. Basically, what I'm saying is maybe Starlight Beacon somehow ends up there. It gets weaponized, knocks it off there, and maybe the Myths weaponize it, and that's a part of their dark secret of like, oh shit, we fucked our own planet up. And we did it with this weapon. Now, I'm just grasping at straws. It could be a completely different MacGuffin, and maybe it's its own thing. But if you wanted to weave stuff in, because it's to my knowledge,
He just dropped again, y'all. Granted, it's been roughly 45 minutes since it happened, so. Please hold while we welcome Nathan back into the chat. Eventually. Nathan!
damn it, sorry.
We're going an hour or 45 minutes.
I know we're almost. By the way, my dinner's almost done, so we'll be wrapping this up soon. But to my knowledge, these Thrawn books specifically, are selling better than the High Republic. I don't know. Maybe you can pull up a stat that shows me differently. But wouldn't it be nice to take something that, and not that they're doing terrible, but you know what I mean? Take these two things that are doing something, combine them, so maybe the sales for both go up. Like if you're a High Republic fan and you find out that, like I said, if my theory is right that the Starlight Beacon is the same thing, and you go, well, shit, I like the beacon, and I want to find out how it ends up over here. Or, like I said, if I'm right and you get into that, and maybe at the end of this I go, shit, I need to go back and see how this beacon, you know what I mean? I need to go do that. So it would be prudent to hook them together, or they go in a totally different way. But like I'm very curious. Like you said, that the very last sentence is kind of like, whoa. Like the whole book, you go, whoa. Like what is this? What did they do? And what is this quote true history of them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely with you.
I think that's an extreme possibility. One thing I don't think we're going to get next book is I don't think we're going to get that explanation. I think Thurfian's going to be dealing with it, but we're not going to get like precise details.
So you don't think we find out by the end of that book?
I don't think we find out what Starflash is. I think we find out
what happened.
We get like Thurfian's like response to it and kind of dealing with it, because especially if it's connected to the High Republic, then I don't think they're going to want to spoil this when the High Republic is supposed to be 5-6 year initiative.
Unless something happens in the next one of these next two books you just talked about, or in the next year that like you go, holy shit, and like maybe like we've been building. Oh, if you really want to pull a swerve, they've been building this Starlight Beacon and stuff. Like make somebody steal it or pulls it out and they throws the whole thing into chaos. Like I'm just throwing shit out there, but it could happen to where we could get some if it's connected.
Because book 3, Lesser Evil, is supposed to come out mid-November for Ascendancy. So, and we should be getting, I would think we're gonna get a third wave of High Republic books around that time frame.
Do you think we get a third trilogy of Thrawn books? Because look, we know Thrawn is going to be the guy in Ahsoka. We all know he is going to be the villain. So your first books the new canon books put Thrawn in the original trilogy era. Works with Vader the Empire. These books put him in the prequel trilogy, which are the prequels. And what did George do? Original prequels. And then we had the sequel trilogy. Do we get in maybe it's not the sequel, but a new quote heir to the Empire timeline that we're going to flesh out with the Ahsoka series, plus like I said, a new 3-book thing going around there? I think it's possible.
I think you have the potential of having another Chiss-based trilogy.
Aw, man.
I don't know if you're necessarily going to get heir to the Empire level, if that makes sense. I think your heir to the Empire may be on television with Ahsoka and everything. But I definitely think there's possibilities because we know everyone's like, where's Ezra? Where's Thrawn? We know they're coming back. Obviously, television, Mandalorian told us so. Where's Thrawn? So it's completely legitimate that the story group knows where we're going. They could be saying, based on this, hey, Timothy, you want to write what happens when Thrawn finally comes back to the Chiss
How does he
Empire?
get back? Yes. Where did him and Ezra go? Tell me that story. Like I don't think Ahsoka's gonna have flashbacks. I think they're gonna talk about. They're gonna pick up from exactly the fight. You know what I mean? Oh, that's a great idea. I want that. Show me what happens when the Purgle take the Chimera and it's all
No,
derelict and out, and like he gets back to the Chiss Ascendancy.
no, I don't think I don't no. I don't what I'm saying is what like Ahsoka ends, and we all know Thrawn isn't necessarily like the villain type. So Ahsoka ends and she's
I
like,
see.
you can go back to your people now. And so I
Oh,
think the next trilogy we get is Thrawn literally going back after
I
being
could do
gone
that.
for 25 years and
Ooh, that
diving
would be
in, and then you get
interesting.
memories from Ezra and Thrawn's perspective.
Let's do that. We could do that too. See, look, that's still a sequel trilogy. Like it would still
Yes.
fit the book
I,
trilogies.
yeah, I still think it's that, and obviously, like we can't tag Lucasfilm or Del Rey here, but Del Rey,
Right.
seriously, give me some money. Like I would love to write that story.
When did you say it's lesser? No, November, right? November.
Mid-November.
Okay, good. I'm ready. I have a feeling that the third book is gonna in this Ascendancy. I got a feeling the next one's gonna really like we're gonna be like, whoa! By the time it's all said and done, and they set him up
Yeah.
to be in exile / spy / informant / build up the Galactic Empire.
Because I have no doubt that when he's in the Empire, he's still communicating with the Chiss.
Absolutely, he's sending coded transmissions. They figured out some sort of long range. They may even have a Chiss Ascendancy warship at the edge of the wild space / the chaos, where they bump right up next to each other to be able to relay. Because in this book, isn't it that they don't have super long distance relays? They have to have a ship to be able to bounce it off of. So either they develop the technology, or we could find out that literally the entire time we've had a couple Chiss warships bouncing around and we didn't even know it. You know what I mean? On the fringes or the outer space. Maybe at Black Spire Outpost on Batu. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to bring that place in more, and they say that's the farthest planet that's considered a part of the Galactic Empire or Republic or whatever before you jump into wild space and the chaos.
Yep.
I'm ready for the next one though. I did like this book. I liked getting more on Jixtus. The Agbui, like you said, that little touch thing was really weird. It was creepy. I want to know more about that metal that they were making jewelry out of. I got a feeling it's gonna be a player. It's gonna be similar to like a Beskar, like a, you know what I mean? Maybe we even find out it technically is Beskar, but they just call it this other stuff.
That could be a complete possibility. Granted, yeah. I'm gonna go throw the old trope in there. Like, you could have more than one impervious metal, I think. So
right, absolutely. Vibranium, antimanium. I got it. Hey, I'm versed, people. I know my stuff. But yeah, you're right. And even that stuff that the Star Destroyers are made of, not all of it's Beskar. What is it? God, what's that other really strong? Durasteel. Durasteel.
No, Durasteel is like what it's mixed with. It's the one from the canon Thrawn book, the first one, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But I know we both have to go. I have to go cook dinner.
Yeah, dinner's about done for me. So like literally, I'm gonna have to run out of here in the next 5 minutes. I think it's about to come out of the oven.
But I did want to call attention to this one quote. It was while they were kind of preparing for that final battle, when they found out the fake mine and everything. And it's a conversation between Samacro and Thrawn. And Samacro's like, she's a good commander, if a little brash sometimes. And Thrawn said, you mean taking on a major warship with a single heavy cruiser? Samacro said, yes, sir. I thought you were the only one who could take on impossible odds and get away with it. And Thrawn said, the odds are never impossible, merely unfavorable. I thought it was a great quote.
Yep.
Like,
absolutely.
A little inspiring.
Hey, on that, I think that's how we should. I think that should be the quote that ends it, or even the podcast title for this week's episode, because that is good.
Yes, I like that. I really like that. So if you have any other questions that you want us to answer about Thrawn Ascendancy, great or good, make sure you leave them on Twitter when this gets posted. Send us a DM. Happy to answer them if you want us to go dive into a more specific detail. I know Sarah has been reading it, so I think she's going to want to come on and talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely.
So it's also another great opportunity for us to dive into some things. Nathan, tell us when they can find you.
You find me usually on Friday evenings on Super Civil Servants live on YouTube at 8 Central Standard Time, and then you can usually find me here every other Sunday morning on the Geekverse channel for Star Wars Alliance at 9 Central Standard Time every other Sunday with Katie here.
Yep. So you can find this podcast. It's on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A and the words. Again, if you want us to cover something, want us to dive deeper into a specific part of Greater Good, let us know. We're more than happy to do it. You can find me on Twitter as well. It's at Slice of Katie. My other podcast is on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network as well. It's Slice of Film. The next episode will be A Quiet Place. So that will be its year anniversary. This is actually our anniversary podcast. Completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
So
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary! 1 year. Can't believe it. Been a blast.
They haven't fired me yet, guys. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
I don't know. I've come close once or twice. Just kidding.
Oh man.
So
that's all I got though.
Yeah. Slice of Film, A Quiet Place will be next Thursday. So make sure you check that out. But with that, I want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time of day you're listening or watching. And we'll see y'all next time. May the Force be with you.
Always.